Hello everyone and welcome to PE Academy. So this is a continuation to our video series on solutions to linear equation, and here we are going to be looking at the pivotal condensation method of solving linear equations. Alright, so if you missed the previous part of this video, I will encourage you to watch the video before this so that you can also have full knowledge of all the different methods. We've looked at Gauss-Seidel, we've looked at Jacobian, we've looked at LU decomposition, we've looked at Kuletsky method and the likes. Okay, so before we get into the video, if you are new to the channel or you are still yet to subscribe, please go ahead right now. Just click on that subscribe button below the video. Alright, so if you just see anywhere subscribe around your video, just go ahead and click on it right now to subscribe to the channel so you can get updates of subsequent videos and when and every other information that I do share on the channel. Alright, so now let's look at this pivotal condensation method. Alright, so now if you look at what we have here, alright, this part here where we have R1 is equals to all of this, R2 is this, and R3 is this. Now basically that R means residual, and we are still, when we look at example, you understand what it means. Basically the idea behind this is that, looking at this example 1 now, if after putting the value of x, y, and z, okay, will it give you a 0? Alright, so if it's not giving you a 0, whatever value that you are having is what we refer to as the residual. Alright, because, and if it's giving you a 0, that means the value of your x, y, and z are perfect. That means they are correct. Okay, but if they are not perfect or they are not really correct, they'll be giving you a value. That value is what we refer to as the residual. So for the first equation is the R1 value, which is the residual 1, R2 and R3 for the residual value for the third equation. Now to give you a proper understanding on what the residue is, okay, and we are still going to look at more examples. So let's look at this first example that we can see on the screen now. So this is one of the examples we've looked at in previous examples, and then when we solved it using the Gauss elimination that we did in that video, we got our x to be minus 11 over 24. We also got our y to be 1 over 12, and then we got the value for our z to be minus 1 over 24. Alright, so minus 1 over 24. Now, if we are asked to look for the residual, okay, so that means our R1, okay, let me see if we can see the equation. That will be minus 3. Since we know our x to be minus 11 over 24 plus 11 multiplied by 1 over 12, okay, plus 7, you can see this is 7z here. So that is going to be 7 multiplied by minus 1 over 24. Since we are having 2, if this 2 should come to the other side of the equals to sign, it becomes minus 2. So this is going to be minus 2 equals to 0. Now, and that is why you are seeing this minus b1 here. Alright, so whatever it equals to it, we are bringing it back to the other side. So this will be our, if it should come to this side, it becomes minus 1, and that means, okay, so that's the meaning of this minus that we are seeing right here. Okay, and sometimes it can be plus. For example, if this should come here now, it becomes plus 1, right? So that means our once we do that, it's going to be plus here and not minus. I hope you get that. So it's not in all cases that it will be minus, but you need to understand that once it's coming, that is coming to the other side of the equals to sign. Okay, so plus 7 then minus 2 equals to 0. Now if you should go ahead and simplify this now, you see that it's going to give us 0. You can just try it at your end. So if you try to simplify this first side now, this is 1 and then this is 8. So this will be 11 over 8, then plus 11 over 12, and then this is going to be minus 7 over 24. Okay, so I remember this 2 minus 2. So if you should simplify this, you can decide to do the normal LCM of this, then you definitely get 0. All right, so for this now, our residue, our R1 value is 0, and that's to tell us that the value we got for our x, our y, and our z are correct. Okay, so in case you are asked to find the value of, you are given a question that maybe depending on the method, and you are asked to look for the value of x, y, and z, and also calculate the residues. Okay, all right. Sorry, the residuals rather. I think I'll be mixing that with the residuals. Okay, so that is how you go ahead. You just put in the value of x, y, and z into it. So if you do the same thing for your R2 and then your R3, you are also going to get 0. That is for this particular question or this particular equation. Is not, in some cases you're not going to get 0, and that leads us to our example 2. Now, so for our example 2 now, this is the question right here. It says use the method of pivotal condensation to find the value of x, y, z. Give your answer to 4 decimal places and calculate the residual errors. Okay, and this is the equation right here. Okay, and then we are asked to look for the value of x, y, and z, and to look for the residuals, the residual errors. All right, so now let's get started with this. Okay, so what we are going to use now is more like we are going to infuse Gauss elimination that we did earlier. Okay, so which this is going to be our equation 1. So let me just put this is going to be our equation 1, equation 2, and then equation 3. Okay, so what I want to do now is, so we started the solution already. Now I want to combine equation 1 and 2. Okay, so that means combine equation 1 and 2. So please, if you have missed the previous part of this video, please just watch the videos before this, how I uploaded them, and then you'll be able to see those videos to give you more understanding in case you are confused of what we are doing. All right, so what we want to do is we want to try to eliminate this x1, okay, the x part of this equation. And now another thing you need to take note is that don't let it to confuse you. Now we are having x1, x2, x3. All right, you can see x1, x2, x3. Now in some cases you might have xyz, you might have abc, anything. It could be anything, so don't let it to confuse you. All right, so don't let it to confuse you. All right, so what we want to do now is, for us to be able to eliminate this, we are going to multiply this equation 1 by 3.04 by everything that is here, and for this we are going to multiply it by 9.31. okay, so that once we subtract, are we going to subtract? Okay, so once we add them, rather, we'll be able to eliminate this. Okay, like I said in that video, you can either add or subtract depending on the sign. You can see there's a negative sign here, so because of this negative we are going to add them up, which will be able to cancel out this. Okay, assuming there was no negative here, we are going to subtract, okay, and then to cancel it. So basically you need to really understand how it works. There's nothing to memorize here. All right, so in doing that, if we use 3.04 to multiply all of this, all right, and we are going to be getting this value. So you might want to do that also from your head, and don't forget we are asked to get our answers in 4 decimal place. So all the calculations, make sure your approximation is to 4 decimal place. All right, so if you do this, 3.04 multiplied by 9.31 x1 and the other values, you are going to be getting, so this is going to give us 28.3024 x1, then plus 9.2416 x2 minus 7.4176 x2 x3, this is x3, then equals to 28.0592. So you see that everything is to 4 decimal place. So you're going to do the same thing for this second equation, 9.31 multiplied by everything right here up to this point. Okay, so for this now we are going to be getting minus 28.3024 x1 plus 57.5358 x2 plus 11.3582 x3, then equals to 76.34. Is that 26 or 20? 20. All right. Okay, if you're wondering how I'm getting it real quick, I've actually solved it earlier. Okay, so now for us to, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add, so let's call this our equation, let's call this our equation 4. So let's call this equation 4. Let's call this equation 5. All right, so now we've separated them into equation 4 and equation 5. So what we want to do now is, since we're having a negative here, so what we'll just do is to add them up so that we can cancel out this. So in doing that, okay, so if you add equation 4 and 5, so this will cancel out because this is 28.30 minus 28.3024 x1. All right, then 9.2416 x2 plus 57 point, this is going to give us 66. So this will give us 66.774 x2, then minus 7. So don't forget, let me just put the plus sign somewhere here. So minus 7.4176 plus this 11.3582. So that would give us plus 3.9406 x3, then equals to, so if you add this together, we are going to be getting 104.4012. all right, so this that we've just gotten now, we'll take this to be our let's take this to be our equation 6. Okay, so just take note of all of those equations. be our equation 6. So with that being done, we've been able to compare equation 1 and 2. So now let's go ahead and repeat the same thing for equation 2 and 3. So repeat the same thing for equation 2 and 3. So from here now, so let's just say comparing or combining, whatever English that works best. But I hope you understand what we are doing. Equation 2 and equation 3. Okay, so in doing that, we are going to be getting minus 3.04, hold on, minus 3.04x1 plus 6.18x2 plus 1.22x3 equals to 8.20. All right, so what I'm just trying to do is to rewrite this our equation 2. Okay, and then remember, then our equation 3 is minus, so you see it here, minus 2.44x1. So I don't want to rewrite it. So that will be minus 2.44x1 plus 1.22x2 minus 8.44x3 equals to 3.98. All right, so for us to do this, we are going to multiply everything that is here by everything here times 2.44. all right, and everything you're going to multiply is by 3.04. You can see this 3.04, use it to multiply this one, and this 2.44, use it to multiply everything here. Okay, so let me just put them in square brackets so that you can understand. So you can see it, so use it here. So if you should do your multiplication correctly, all right, and don't forget you should put them in 4 decimal places. So we are going to be having minus 7.4176x1 plus 15.0792x2 plus 2.9768x3 all equals to 20.0080. all right, so if you also use 3.04 to multiply everything inside this bracket, you are going to be getting minus 7.4176x1, then plus 3.7088x2, then plus that's 3.04 now multiplied by minus 8.44, and that will give you minus 25. Okay, that should be negative. That will be minus 25.6576 x3 equals to 11.9472. okay, all right, so now let's call this our equation 7, and let's call this our equation 8. So what we're going to do now is for us to cancel out this x1 part. You can see there's a negative here, there's another negative here. So what we'll just do is to subtract them. Okay, so what you can just say is subtract equation 8 from 7. Okay, so in doing that, you can just put your minus sign here. So if you should do that, okay, this will cancel this. This is minus 7 points, and this, because this minus and this minus become plus. So doing that cancels this. Okay, so let's move here. 15.0792 minus 3.708. all right, so this will give us 11.3704 x2, and then if you do 2.9768 minus this, it will give us plus 28.6344 x3, then equals to, so 20.008 minus 11.9472 will give us 8.0608. all right, so I hope you are finding value in this. So let me call this our equation 9. all right, so now what we want to do now is to, so let me write it here, that combine equation 6 and 9. okay, so now let's come back to our equation 6. Remember, our equation 6 is when we combine equation 1 and 2, and then we got this our equation 6, and then our equation 9 is this one that we've just gotten. Okay, so we're going to combine them together so that we can use it to get our x2 and x3. Okay, so once we combine them and so let me just complete it, combine equation 6 and solve simultaneously. Okay, so we are going to be using the concept of simultaneous equation uh, and solve simultaneously. All right, so let me go ahead and rewrite it. All right, so I've gone ahead to rewrite the equation 6 and equation 9. All right, so we are going to just apply what we've done earlier. So what I want to do is, you can decide to do that of x2 or x3. So, but I want to start with, I want to cancel out x2. And for us to achieve that, we need to multiply all of this, our equation 6, by this value. That will be times 11.3704. The same thing we are going to do here is we are going to multiply everything here in our equation 9 by this 6.774. So that will be times, 66 rather, 66.7774. All right, so if you do this correctly, so let me just go ahead and put in the values. Okay, all right, so I've gone ahead to do the multiplication. So like I said, if you should multiply it appropriately, hold on just a minute. So if you multiply this with everything here, we are going to get this. If you should multiply 66.774 with everything inside this square bracket, we are going to get this. Okay, so I've gone ahead to do that to save us some time. All right, so what we want to do now, we now have a new set of equations. So let's just call this our equation 10. And then let's call this our equation 11. All right, so for us to cancel this, what we just do is to subtract them. Okay, so once we subtract them, this cancel out. So we are left with 44.8062 my x3 minus this, and that will give us 1867. Okay, so that's 44.8062 minus 1912. So there should be a negative sign here. 1.3246x3 then equals to, so if you subtract this on this side, we are going to be getting 648.8041. all right, so with this now we can make x3 the subject formula. So in doing that, we are going to have our x3 will just be equals to, once we divide both sides by minus 1867.3246, we are going to be getting minus 648.8041 8041 over 1867.3246. all right, so if you do this, we are going to be getting our x3 to be minus 0.3475. okay, so you can see it right here, x3 is equals to minus 0.3475. so with this now we've gotten the value for our x3. all right, so let's just take note of this. Now for us to get x2 and x1, so let's start with this. So let's say we are going to substitute the value of x3 into, so any of the equations that has both x3 and x2. okay, so that's what we are going to do. But let's use equation 6 into equation 6. So in doing that, we are going to be having, remember what our equation 6 is. Let's see if we can trace that right here. All right, so this is our equation 6 right here. All right, this one with the 66 point something. okay, so if you should do that, so in doing that, we are going to be having 66.7774x2 plus 3.9406, and then let's put in the value of our x3. that will be minus 0.3475 is equals to 104.4012. okay, so if you should do this correctly now, you make our x2 the subject formula. We are going to be having our x2 to be equals to 104.4012. okay, then plus, so plus 3.9406 times 0.3475. so what just happens here is, there's a negative here, there's a negative here, there's a positive here, which is like negative. So it should come to the other side of the equals to sign, it becomes positive. So that's why you're having positive here. okay, all right, then divided by 66.7774. all right, so if you should do this correctly, you're going to be getting your x2 to be equals to 1.5839. All right, so take note of this. We've gotten our x2, we've gotten our x3. So now let's calculate for our x1. All right, so for us to get x1, we are going to substitute the value of x2 and x3 into, so for this now you can use equation 1, equation 2, or equation 3, okay, but for this now we are going to make use of equation 3, so you can use any of the equations. So let me just go ahead and put in those values. That will be minus 2.44 x1, then plus 1.22. So the value of our x2 is 1.5839, okay, then minus 8.44, and our x3 we got that to be minus 0.3475, then equals to 3.93. okay, so if you should simplify this, you are going to get your x1 to be equals to 0.3831, okay, sorry, 3833 rather 3833. okay, so with this now we've gotten our x1, our x2, and our x3. That's the first part of the question, and don't forget to say our answer should be in 4 decimal place. So now that we've gotten the x1, x2, and x3, so the next thing for us is to, the question says we should also get the residual error. All right, so let me write it here that. So calculating for the residuals. Okay, so now let's start with R1. So R1, remember from the initial, is A11x1 plus A12x2 plus A13x3 minus B1. Remember, I gave this at the beginning of this video. You can see it right here, okay? So let's continue. So now let's put in the values. So from our equation 1, we know that. So I wanted to go straight, but I need to just rewrite the equation 1. This is our initial equation 1. Okay, this that we are having right here, but I need to rewrite it so that you can understand what is happening here. So now we already have our x1. We've calculated x1, x2, and x3. So for us to calculate our r1, okay, so that means our 911 is this 9.31. Okay, so we are going to be having 9.31 multiplied by our x1 value. We got that to be 0.3833. Then plus our A12, which is this 3.04. So that will be 3.04 multiplied by our x2. We got our x2 to be 1.5839. Okay, then minus this 2.44, which is our A13. So our x3, we got that to be 0.3475. Then this minus b1 is for us to move this value to the other side of the equals to sign, and that becomes minus 9.23. all right, so if you should do this correctly, you are going to be getting minus 3.83 times 10 raised to power minus 4. So that means our r1. Okay, so that's the residual error, okay, in the value of x1, x2, and x3 that we got. Okay, so basically that is just to let us know that the value we got for our x1, x2, and x3 is not perfect. And the reason for that is based on this particular example is because of a lot of approximation happened, because you can see we are working with decimal places. Our questions are in decimal, they are not in whole number, so there are chances that we are going to be doing some approximation, and if you continue the division, it's just going to continue like that. So you can't get a perfect whole number like the example one I showed you earlier. Okay, if you look at that example one at the beginning of this video, yeah, this particular example, you can see we're able to get 0 easily. Okay, so basically that's just the idea behind this concept. So the same way we did for R1, you're also going to do for R2. So if you really understand what you are doing, you should be able to pause the video right now, challenge yourself to also attempt to get R2 and R3. Okay, and let me know what you get in the comment section. So guys, if you are finding value, please let me know in the comment section. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you are yet to. So now let me go ahead and look for R2 rather. So this will be R2. So our R2, so this will now be, I don't need to rewrite the equation, you already understand the concept. So that will be minus 3.04 into bracket 0.3833 plus 6.18 into bracket 1.5839 plus 1.22 into bracket 34, okay, into bracket 0.3475 minus 8.2. Okay, so if you should do this correctly, you are going to be getting minus 7.2 times 10 raised to the power minus 5. Okay, so y for r3, so for r3 is going to be minus 2.44 multiplied by the value of x1, which is 0.3833, plus 1.22 multiplied by 1.5839, then minus 8.44 into bracket 0.3475, then minus 3.93. Okay, so if you also do this correctly, you are going to be getting your answer to be 3.9305, which is our R3. Okay, all right. So with this now, we've come to an end to this example or the topic itself on pivotal condensation, how you can go ahead to look for the residual values and to calculate the value of your maybe x1, x2, x3, or xyz or abc, whatever alphabet they want to use to represent that. So guys, I hope you find value. If you do, please give the video a thumbs up. Again, if you have any question, any doubts, let me know in the comment section. And if some part of the video is not clear, I'll just encourage you to watch the video again. All right, take your time to watch it. You can write it out so that you can see all of the steps at a glance. Okay, so again, don't forget the previous part of this video. You can also find them in our playlist. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. My name is Prosper, and I'll see you all in another video. Bye for now.